Strive Coaching Studio, guiding business leaders to meet the highest version of themselves. And now, here's Michelle, certified coach and founder of Strive Coaching Studio.
Hi, everybody. I am here today to talk about a correlation between competition and the meaning of life. Now, I know that may sound a bit surprising to you, and how in the world am I going to connect those two dots? But that's my intention. So bear with me, stay with me. I am going to give a little bit of pre-discussion about the definition of competition as we get started, so that I can set the tone for where I'm going with all of this. But isn't it interesting that we all love a good competition? Whether it's for fun or serious for a big payoff, we love them all. As a society, as a culture, as a species, going back through the years of our ancestors, competitions have been a part of our lives. All ages, all areas, we love them. So it isn't surprising that we would find the concept so intriguing and invigorating, each of us every day, pulling out a spirit within us that generates a higher level of performance and pressure and a drive to achieve and be better. Proven scientifically, our species has survived and evolved because of it and thrives on it in many ways. So by definition, just to set this tone, a competition is a situation in which two or more groups or people are trying to get something which not everyone can have. A competition is an event in which many people take part in order to find out who is the best at a particular activity. Competitors compete against one another. The person who wins may get a prize. That could be a trophy or money. It could be a rivalry for supremacy. It could be a contest for honor or another advantage of some sort. Now, biologists typically recognize two types of competition. They're called interference and exploitative. Basically, the difference is whether they are directly or indirectly fighting for scarce resources. So these organisms are either fighting directly or indirectly for them, just like humans. Intraspecific competition is a form of competition between members of the same species. So that could be plants of the same species, trees that are growing very close together and they're vying for the sunlight and the soil nutrients in their roots. So competition is seen as a negative interaction that occurs among organisms whenever two or more organisms require the same limited resource. So animals requiring the same food or water, or plants requiring the soil nutrients or the light. Gray squirrels and red squirrels were in competition for the same resources, and the gray squirrels in many areas of the world basically won the competition. And interestingly, scientists state that human beings are a social species that rely on cooperation to survive and thrive. So while many of us believe that competition is what makes our species survive, and in many ways has, in order for us to thrive and evolve as a species, it's actually cooperation that creates that. So there's something called the Cooperative Human, has an article on nature-human behavior, and they've published workings and studies from scientists showing us how our cooperative behaviors versus the easier or more obvious seeming selfish behaviors would prove that our species has both survived, thrived, and evolved as a result of cooperation. While many other species function and perform successfully as a species through cooperation, like bees and ants and animals, it's not really surprising that the human species would see the reliance on cooperation to thrive as well. From day-to-day tasks to our greatest accomplishments and endeavors as a human species. And most of our biggest challenges ahead as a species can only be resolved through cooperation. And that the leverage of the value of relationships, sharing risks, trusting and forging partnerships that can be gained are far greater value than the risk for the individual person or group to remain competitive. You can definitely read more on many of the studies that have proven this. So where then, this is where we land, this is the question, what is the value of competition then in spirit for our species now, for our day-to-day lives at work and at home and in our worlds? As you probably already know about me, I'm a big proponent of cooperation and collaboration and teamwork for the greater good of the group at the core of my messages all the time. I talk people first, relationships are key, listening, authentic communication. That is always my philosophy. And yet that innate competitive spirit still lives strongly inside of us. I know I have it, and I know you probably do too. It's just natural. So here's my approach. This is where I've landed. I'm going to connect the dots here for you a little bit. Number one, competition is a positive, innate function that we have in us to serve us, to evolve and improve us as a species, to make us better every day. Without it, how would we move forward as a society and as a planet properly? When we can find it and appreciate the value that it brings all of us and for ourselves, and just really see it for its value, we can recognize what it can do for us. Number two, cooperation and collaboration makes teams and organizations better. Building trust, leveraging risk, forging partnerships that serve the greater good, whether used competitively or not, have tremendous value and should not be overlooked or undervalued. The bottom line is, do not underestimate the value of a strong, united team that is on a mission. Number three is recognizing that your biggest competitor is yourself. Measuring yourself, comparing your own performance and your own abilities and talents is much more difficult to face. We all have a much easier time pointing out the faults and the imperfections and the failures of others, or of a team, or of players. But the real work ahead is measuring and assessing ourselves instead. And the much more difficult work is recognizing it, the good and the bad. So how do we measure up? How are our number one competition going to be? Who is it? We are our number one competition, looking in the mirror right back at us. So here's my questions. Who was I 1 year ago? What was I doing? What did I think and believe? What did I have around me? What had I accomplished? What had I not yet accomplished? What did I want to accomplish? What did I dream about? And then I say, who am I today? What am I doing right now? What do I think and I believe about the world and about myself and about others? What do I have around me? What have I accomplished? What are the differences? How far have I come? And then I ask myself, who will I be 1 year from now? What will I be doing? What do I want to think and believe about myself and about others and about the world? What will I have around me? What will I no longer have around me? What will I want to have accomplished? The best of both worlds is knowing that we can acknowledge both. We can appreciate the value of each. And then when we can look at ourselves, we can truly become competitive within ourselves to be different than we were yesterday and to be even different tomorrow. Not better, not worse, but evolving, changing in the ways we decide and choose. The opportunity we create for ourselves and as a contributor to the world is much greater when we embrace the value of each. Becoming the highest version of who we are capable of being is the goal. It is what nature intends for us, each of us. We don't need to be a different person or more like another person. We need to live up to and into exactly who and what we were intended to offer and bring to this life and to this planet for the brief time we have it, to be able to bring it and become that. Finding that within ourselves and living into it more and more each and every day, in my opinion, is the meaning of life. It encompasses everything. Our gifts, our strengths and abilities, acceptance, love, our relationships. It allows us to live into the most joyful and happy things on earth. And it requires us to live up to our best through the most tragic things on the earth. When we show up each and every day, bringing a more evolved version of ourselves than we did yesterday, we are doing exactly what we were intended to do, living our exact purpose and meaning for being here. So let us all look at ourselves each day to make a conscious and deliberate decision for who we're going to be and what we will be contributing to the world around us, no matter how small that may be. When we can all do that cooperatively, just imagine what our families and relationships could be, what our businesses and organizations could be, and all that the species in the planet could be. Let's go do it each and every day, together, as a team, cooperatively, collaboratively, and supporting and relying on each other to make ourselves better. That is what allows us to each be better, when we have each other to lean on and the support around us. If we can bring that to our families, to our organizations, and to our world, we can all thrive and not just survive. So let's go do it, everybody. Have a great week.
Check out our show notes in the podcast section on strivecoachingstudio.com to read these valuable tips. And thank you for listening.